Hi, this is Neil Davidson. Welcome to another tutorial here at avforums.tv. In this tutorial, we're going to look at the basic settings in your AV receiver. We want to make sure that you understand how to set these things up properly. If you get the basic settings right, it can make a huge difference to the performance that you can get in your own home cinema. The first step in configuring your AV receiver is to make sure that you've got your speaker configuration correct. We're going to use a Denon AV processor as part of this example, but you should find that the options are almost identical on every AV receiver on the market. So first step, speaker config. Now in the speaker configuration, what you need to do is tell the AV receiver if your speakers are large or small. The concept of large and small speakers is something that does seem to be quite confusing, but it's actually very simple. Normally, if you call a speaker small, what that means is that a certain amount of the low bass frequencies are going to get redirected to the subwoofer, whereas if you leave it as large, those frequencies are going to get left playing from the main speaker. Now, again, people can easily find it quite confusing. They think, well, I have a large floor standing speaker, so surely I must set that to large. Well, in actual fact, you'll probably find in most cinemas, and by most I mean 95% of cinemas, you will find that the correct setting for your main speakers is actually small. In the demo room that we're in just now, we have over £60,000 worth of speakers that are very large and are standing on the floor, and yet as you can see, we've left them configured as small. One other point to note in the speaker configuration is how to set up the back speakers. Now, again, people can often be confused by the concept of surround speakers. A surround speaker should not really be placed behind you. We've explained speaker positioning in an earlier tutorial, and in a 7.1 system, they should be at approximately 90 degrees to the listener, and in a 5.1 system, approximately 110 degrees to the listener. You can see in the picture it's showing them at 90 degrees to the listener. That's your surround speakers. Back speakers, in fact, are the ones that go behind the listening position. Now, again, most AV receivers will give you an option to select one or two rear speakers. We would recommend in most situations that you would want to have two rear speakers rather than one speaker, but again, as we've explained in an earlier tutorial, you must make sure that your configuration is suitable for a 7.1 setup. Once we've configured all of our speakers, and again, mainly we will set them to be small, the next thing that we have to do is set the crossover frequency. Now, crossover is just a technical term, and what it refers to is the frequency where the low bass energy will get redirected to the subwoofer. In this system, we're able to go into advanced, and we can actually configure the crossover for each speaker independently. If we were working in a THX system, the first place to start would be to set to each crossover to 80 Hz, and 80 Hz is an ideal starting point in almost every system. As you can see, we've set all of the crossovers now to 80 Hz. What that means is that all of the sound below 80 Hz is getting sent to the subwoofer rather than to the main speaker. That's only true if we've set the speaker configuration to small, and in fact that is the very reason why we set the speaker configuration to small. 80 Hz is quite a low frequency, and we want to make sure that it's reproduced properly, and the subwoofer is the best speaker to do that. The reason why we redirect the bass below 80 Hz is that that frequency is quite a low frequency, and it puts quite a lot of strain on our main speakers to try and recreate that. It's much more efficient for that to be sent to a separately powered subwoofer, which has a large driver and can create those frequencies much more easily. The second thing is that at those low frequencies, the subwoofer should be omnidirectional. Omnidirectional just means that the sound comes out in all directions, and that means that we shouldn't be able to locate the subwoofer in the listening room. The next parameter that we need to set is the distance. The distance is the distance from your listening position to the speaker. Again, in this processor, we have a very fine level of adjustment that we can make when we're setting the distance. This one is very straightforward. All you want to do is take a tape measure and measure the distance from the tweeter, that's normally the smallest driver on your speaker, to the listening position, and then you just enter that information here. As you can see, we're able to put the distances in quite accurately. This is very important because if you don't have the distances set correctly, the sound will arrive at the listening position slightly out of sync between the speakers, and what that can do is that can destroy the surround effects that you're looking to get in your home cinema system. The final parameter that you want to set up in your AV receiver is the channel level. The channel level describes how loud each speaker plays relative to each other. The way to think about channel level is that this is really an individual volume control for each of your speakers. The important thing that we want to get with the channel level is that we want to have each speaker being at the same loudness when the sound reaches the listening position. The speaker level is set in terms of decibels. The decibels are just the standard measurement for sound pressure or the loudness. The correct way to measure the sound level is to use a sound level meter set to C weighting and slow measurement. Now that's a slightly technical subject and there's lots of advice on the forums. We may also discuss that in a future tutorial. All you need to do is move through each of the speakers and look at the value that your sound level meter is measuring, and then you just adjust these trim values to make sure that each speaker is at the same sound level. Now, one of the more difficult points is deciding which sound level you should set each of these trims to. The advice that you hear most often is that you should target a value of 75 decibels. Now, that's a good starting point. It's made slightly more difficult because each AV receiver has slightly varying test tones that they output. So the important thing is not to shoot for an absolute correct value of 75 dBs. The most critical thing is to have each speaker measuring the same value in your listening room. Then you can try and target a value of 75 dBs as a secondary goal. Thanks for watching this short tutorial on how to set up your AV receiver's basic settings. We hope that this can help you to get the best performance in your own home cinema. Join us again for another tutorial on avforums.tv.